introduction now of Mike Brown, CEO at Nedbank. Mike, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the program. So we've just heard the finance minister. They're talking about taxes. No increases either for citizens or corporate tax. In fact, corporate taxes coming down from, 28 to 27% this year. Is that a big enough drop?
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. I think it is certainly a very welcome drop. I'm sure everybody would like more than that. But just a reminder that this was actually announced in last year's budget. And there's a little bit of a twist in the tail, if I heard the minister correctly, because it is only effective for financial years starting on or after March next year.
Yes, it is for companies with assessment years ending on or after the end of March 2023. So in that period then, leading up to March 2023, has government done enough or announced enough today to assist these businesses that are already limping as a result of COVID and the many other economic challenges prior to the pandemic?
So I think, the 1% tax reduction, as welcome as it is not going to be material in that conversation. It moves our corporate tax rates, which are still high, it moves them slightly closer to global or emerging market averages. I think the most important things that were announced today to help the business environment would be first and foremost the focus on fiscal sustainability. In other words, ensuring that the government's own finances are well managed. And we all know that it's important for that to happen because our government debt levels are already very high, and our government borrowings every year in the form of the fiscal deficit are already very high. And what that does is it crowds out other private sector investment, and it also keeps the cost of capital high. So I think that focus on fiscal sustainability is really, really important for business.
Let's talk about the 15 billion rand that will be facilitated through financial institutions such as yours for small business loan guarantees. Let's explain who exactly will be covered under that and how it's going to assist.
Well, so, the minister said that the finer details of that are still being worked on, but certainly from what I heard, 15 billion of it is intended to cover loans to smaller businesses, with government taking the first 20% loss on that. So think of this as a little bit of an extension of the loan guarantee scheme that was put in place in the height of COVID, but with slightly different terms and conditions. And then above and beyond that, 5 billion set aside for equity interventions into those smaller businesses.
And when do you expect, Mike, that South African businesses will be able to get back on their feet post-COVID-19? I mean, now we've got a vaccine rollout that's underway. We're essentially not dealing with the lockdowns of the past 2 years, at least not as serious. So are the conditions conducive for a quick recovery?
Yes, I think business has actually in general done a really good job of either staying on their feet as best as possible or getting back on their feet as quickly as possible. I think in some ways that's evidenced by GDP growth for 2021, which is currently forecast at around about 5%. So clearly that's a big bounce back off that low base. But if you are still in certain sectors, so here think about tourism, travel, entertainment, and airlines, those are probably the only sectors that we see through Nedbank's own records that have not yet made recoveries back to 2019 pre-COVID levels in terms of turnover.
And what does your analysis as a bank at Nedbank, what does it tell you about where we should be directing money to in an evolving world that is post-pandemic, where some companies are relooking, for example, whether they should still be renting properties or stick with workers working from home? That would then have an impact on the property sector or people who have tenants and the rest of it.
Yes, I mean, clearly, those are questions that in a capital market system, each individual business needs to look at and decide where it thinks money needs to be directed. But if we think about it in budget terms, it's absolutely clear that we need to direct money towards infrastructure, because creating an environment for business to grow and employ people and pay taxes requires infrastructure. And here I'm thinking about electricity, rail, ports, water, roads. It requires all of those things to be operational and efficient. And that is absolutely a huge drag on growth right now.
Mike Brown, good to speak to you. Mike Brown is the CEO of Nedbank, giving us his reaction to that budget speech delivered today by Enoch Godongwana, the finance minister. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.